Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Maple Syrup History 253 and Catholicism and Disasters number 19. Today's lecture is on the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980. March 27th, 1980, a series of volcanic explosions and pyroclastic flows begin at Mount St. Helens. So as those of you in the classroom, all 69 of you, 71 of you in the classroom will know, volcanoes often give off, there's aftershocks and this kind of thing after earthquakes. There's a preparatory phase, right? Often with small explosions and warning signs. Warning signs might be the best way to explain this. So people know for a long time. We said famously, you can look up online, and I would, if I were you, go look up same name, different person as the president, Harry Truman. He was the guy who owned the lodge right there at Spirit Lake. And they have interviews with Harry Truman. They're like, basically, hey, people are saying it's going to explode. Do you care? No. Are you going to leave? No. What happens if it explodes? Are you going to take any kind of precautions? Bruh. That's all he said. He's like, listen, man, no, okay? Maybe very apropos with an earlier lecture and the very brave Captain Smith of the Titanic. I'm going to go down with the ship. I'm going to go down with the ship, you know, the Royal Mail ship, Mount St. Helens. And he does, God rest his soul. Harry Truman is one of 57 people killed when Mount St. Helens explodes on May 18th, 1980. May 18th, 1980 is the explosion of Mount St. Helens. It explodes at 8:32 in the morning. And you may or may not know this. The Smithsonian, one of these places, is a very good video, the Smithsonian YouTube channel. It talks about people were worried. Well, the geologists who are studying this are worrying if it explodes upward, kind of a normal explosion, that could be bad. That could be problematic. It's a volcano. What we can't have is a lateral explosion, exploding out of the side. It is a lateral explosion. It explodes out of the side. That is exactly what happens, sadly, is that the volcano explodes to the side, creates this lahar, this massive mudslide, mud flow kind of thing. Spirit Lake is completely owned. It blows up Spirit Lake. Spirit Lake becomes... No. Yeah. So Spirit Lake is right at the base. If you look at, again, these are all kind of the grand benefits of the internet. You can kind of research this immediately. Any of you, of those of you in class, you know, with your access to your phones right now, people watching online later, of course, you know, pause the video, go look online. You can look at people vacationing at Spirit Lake with Mount St. Helens right there in the background. Beautiful, kind of large, snow-capped mountain. Mount St. Helens, I think, takes the water temperature at Spirit Lake, which is very cold, normally, of course, and instantly heats it up to like hot tub level, you know, 100-something degrees, and just explodes it all out. And in the aftermath, go look at the photos, you know, in the aftermath of Mount St. Helens, the whole area looks lunar. It looks like it's become the surface of the moon. So really quickly, those of you that are fans of maple syrup history know that last class we talked about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the two bombs there, right? Fat Man and Little Boy. Little Boy first. Little Boy is Hiroshima, 15 kilotons. Fat Man is 22 kilotons of TNT. Mount St. Helens is 26 million tons of TNT. The Tsar Bomba, which is the largest bomb, we've talked about the Tsar Bomba. It's been, I can't even say conspicuous by its absence. It's had a presence in this class, like a penumbratic presence, if that, if I can conjugate penumbra in that way. It's kind of shadow. The shadow is kind of an outline. We've talked about the Tsar Bomba often. It's the bomb dropped in 1962 by the Soviet Union on Nova Zemlya, these islands in the Arctic Ocean. Largest man-made explosion ever. The Tsar Bomba is 57 million tons of TNT. This is half of that. So the explosion of Mount St. Helens is half of a hydrogen bomb. Mount St. Helens is, 1.6 thousand atomic bombs going off at once. If you're wondering, again, our class is Catholicism and disasters. I'm interested in the disaster power. I'm interested in how hard did the earthquake, rip apart the earth, and how big was the explosion. Last class, our most recent maple syrup history was Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Mount St. Helens, 26 million tons of TNT. It's the explosive power when this volcano blows, is like 1.6 thousand. 1,600 atomic bombs that were dropped at Hiroshima, Nagasaki, going off simultaneously. This happens once more on May 18th, 1980, at 8:32 in the morning. The two most famous people killed of the 57, and once more and forever evermore. May God rest their souls. Every death is a tragedy, period. But of the most kind of famous of the 57, one of them is Harry Truman. Like I said, the guy, I love this guy. He's awesome. I hope his soul was in order. Why not? This is my home. This is my heaven on earth, Spirit Lake. Why would I leave? If I die because the volcano explodes, that's so boss in so many ways. And he's an old man by that time. He was either a young old man, like, mid 70s, or he was an old man, like upper 80, 90. He was an older guy. Harry Truman is one of the most famous victims. The other one is David Johnston. David Johnston is the young geologist. This is very tragic because I think he was like my age, like early 30s, maybe even younger. He's not an old man. But he's the guy who dies right at the base of the mountain, wiring back. This is it. It's happening. If you go to Mount St. Helens today, have you guys been? Anyone been to Mount St. Helens?
Yeah,
Got it. Have you guys? You guys have been to Mount? Oh, good. All of you. Oh, great. All of you have been to Mount St. Helens. If you go to Mount St. Helens, by the way, if you're wondering, people who are fans of maple syrup history all over the world, who aren't very familiar with the Pacific Northwest, Mount St. Helens is in Washington State. We're in Washington State now. Wait a second. Excuse me. How dare you? You're in Moscow, Idaho. We're in Washington State. Moscow and Pullman is just, the Palouse is all one thing. Just as when it is in Idaho technically, but Pullman is not Washington. You're going to say it's Idaho too. I like that. I like that argument. I'm serious. I'm not even kidding. I've talked so many times, like, good job, funny and sarcastic about, I'm following you seriously because, like, I agree. Like, I honestly think, like, Pullman, Moscow, Spokane, the whole kind of Palouse area, the Palouse is kind of its own region.
Washington.
There you go. Yeah, Washington, keep Spokane. We don't want Spokane. Where we are now, where we film maple syrup history on the campus of the University of Idaho, the St. Augustine Center, 7 miles away, our sister school, Washington State University, go Cougs, all this area, Washington State, Panhandle, Idaho, this is the Pacific Northwest. When we think about Mount St. Helens on the western part of the state, we think Seattle. It is not by Seattle. Mount St. Helens actually is 45 minutes northeast of Portland. Mount St. Helens' largest city is Portland. The thing to realize, though, is when Mount St. Helens explodes, all of that ash and all the facts I'll give you moves eastward. So it doesn't affect Portland immediately. It's the right side of Portland, literally on a map, the right side to the east. But if you're like, where is Mount St. Helens? It is on the right side of Portland. Hello, Betsy on the chat. Hello to you. You have 3 comments. Let me see what you have here. Let me read them. Thank you always. I hiked the lava tubes years ago. Super cool. I've been to Mount St. Helens myself one time. It was very beautiful. What I wanted to say really quickly, I don't think I finished this point. If you go to Mount St. Helens now, there's a ridge there. It's called the Johnston Observatory Ridge. It's named after this man, David Johnston. I would say him and Harry Truman are the famous people who die of these 57. It's very, very beautiful. I did not get to hike the lava tubes. I got to walk around a little bit in that area. It was just stunningly beautiful. In fact, going up, it was all shrouded in cloud cover. And when we got to the top, it broke, and it was just breathtakingly beautiful. Before the eruption, we could see the mountain from the window of our geometry classroom. That's amazing. Were you, Betsy, I know that you're kind of in the Seattle area. Were you in Seattle itself? It was amazing and a bit scary to spend miles underground. Dang. Where were you? Like when you saw this from your classroom, 1980? This is Seattle? Are you in like Bellingham? Are you in Yakima? Where were you then? What was the city? Betsy Johnson, we are trying to geolocate your location from 1980. Where, top of Somerset Hill in Bellevue. Betsy, you're a legend. All your comments are always so awesome. That's awesome. So Bellevue, Washington, top of Somerset Hill. Yeah, this is Mount St. Helens is an event that we're going to read about today, affects the whole country, but western part of Washington. However, the closest large big city, if you're like, I'm watching this in Biloxi, Mississippi. Where did Mount St. Helens take place? It was it was by that is a good Biloxi accent, by the way. That was like really good Biloxi accent. Martha, will you bring in another beer? I'm watching maple syrup history with this Polish guy. I can't pronounce his name, but he told me Mount St. Helens is by Portland. Now I know that. It is. It's by Portland. Okay. May 18th. Everyone get serious. This is serious stuff. May 18th, 1980, 8:32 in the morning, 57 people die. Half of a hydrogen bomb, the equivalent of 1,600 Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. The explosion caused the entire weekend north face to slide away, a sector collapse, which then initiates the largest subaerial landslide in recorded history. This allowed the partly molten rock, rich in high-pressure gas and steam, to suddenly explode northward towards Spirit Lake in a hot mix of lava and pulverized older rock overtaking the landslide. The eruption column rose 80,000 feet. The eruption column rose 15 miles into the atmosphere and deposited ash in 11 US states and various Canadian provinces. At the same time, snow, ice, and entire glaciers on the volcano melted, forming a series of large lahars. What is a lahar? Lahar. It is a volcanic mudslide that reached as far as the Columbia River, about 50 miles away. Less severe outbursts continue into the following day. And once more, the thermal energy released, equivalent of 26 million tons of TNT. 57 people were killed. We said again, but we can't say it enough. May God rest their souls. That is the ultimate tragedy relevant to us as human beings. 57 lives lost, 200 houses, 47 bridges, 15 miles of railways, and 185 miles of highway, all destroyed. 57 deaths, but also 200 houses, 15 miles of railway, and 185 miles of highway completely destroyed. President Jimmy Carter, who's almost out of office this time, the Reagan era is about to begin, but Carter is still in office. When he looks at the damage, he says it looks more desolate than a moonscape. The removal of the north side of the mountain, 13% of the cone's volume, reduced Mount St. Helens' height by about 1,300 feet and left a crater 1 to 2 miles wide and 2,100 feet deep. More than 4 billion board feet of timber were damaged or destroyed, mainly by the lateral blast. At least 25% of the destroyed timber was salvaged after September 1980. That's pretty amazing. So 4 billion board feet of timber destroyed, but 1 billion, 25%, 1 billion is salvaged. Downwind of the volcano, in areas of thick ash accumulation, many agricultural crops, examples being potatoes, apples, wheat, alfalfa, were destroyed. As many as 1,500 elk and 5,000 deer were killed. And an estimated 12 million fish die when their hatcheries were destroyed, mainly Chinook and Coho salmon. Another, not in this 12 million number of the Chinook and Coho salmon and their hatcheries, another estimated 40,000 young salmon were lost when they swam through turbine blades of hydroelectric generators after reservoir levels were lowered along the Lewis River to accommodate possible mudfloods and the kind of runoff from the floodwaters. All right, I have a timeline for you. I've actually got a lot of really good, anyone know what the word pithy means? What does P-I-T-H-Y mean? Pithy. Anyone know? It's a good word. I would think so too. Yeah, it sounds like that. Pithy means like dense. So it's like a pithy parable is like, this guy did it was 3 sentences long. It's just like, yeah, exactly. It's very thick. I've got a really pithy lecture for you today. It's not a lot, but a lot of really good info. I mean, that was a lot of really good info. I also have a timeline for you and then 30 facts about Mount St. Helens. These are very pithy stuff. It won't take us a long time to get through, but it's thick, thick stuff you can sit with, think about later. Betsy writes that this was happened on a Sunday. I remember that from watching. I watched a couple documentaries on Mount St. Helens, especially when it got to the 40th anniversary in 2020, talking about this just was a Sunday morning. The way we're going to talk about 9/11 coming up in this class for 3 classes, that was a Tuesday morning. Why does that matter? I mean, well, there's 7 days a week. Betsy writes, we were prepared. My dad had masks in all our cars, so we would never be without. We had almost no dust in Seattle and didn't need them. Yeah, thank God. As we'll talk about, remember all of the millions and millions of cubic feet of dust and ash raining down Yakima. If you look at Yakima, Washington, pictures from then, I highly recommend it. It looks like the 9/11 ground zero after the Twin Towers collapse. Yakima is covered in ash. Everything eastward, I have a friend who talked about being in the Spokane area, kind of like Rosalia area or something on that 195, and that everything was just completely, like whiteout conditions, eclipse level. But if you were west of Mount St. Helens, as Seattle is northwest of the affected area, thank God it did not get the main brunt of it, or even really anything at all in some cases. Here's a timeline. I'm going to crush this timeline. You guys ready? This is all 1980. So if Vivian, you're like, when you're reading this in 1980, it's 1980. It's all 1980. March 16th, first sign of activity at Mount St. Helens. There is 100 earthquakes recorded within a week. This week of March 16th, but like very 100 earthquakes recorded in a week around the time of March 16th. On March 24th, so after this week of 100 earthquakes, these are all obviously small rumbling things. I'm not saying they're not, and they certainly were very ominous signs of what was to come. But I'm just saying these could have been like, sub Richter level 1, whatever, just kind of rumblings. 8 days after the 100 earthquake week on March 16th, there's as many as 20 earthquakes in an hour recorded on March 24th.
And when you say earthquakes, you mean earthquakes there in that?
On Mount St. Helens, on Mount St. Helens itself. So like on the, I'm going to use this analogy purposely, on the atomic bomb that explodes, the actual north face, the mountain itself. Yeah, go ahead. No, that's it. That's all I have.
How many of those were felt actually around Portland?
I don't know. I don't think down to Portland.
The people, it wasn't just on the mountain.
I think just on the mountain. From what No, so that's a great question. What I know is, it's a great question. And for the purpose of time, we don't have all the time to go into the detail this deserves. Your question really, again, is just an amazing question. This is why, if you're interested in this, go watch like a long form documentary. They start evacuating people out. People know what's going on. David Johnston, the man who dies, radioing back, hey, this is it. At 8:32 in the morning, when the thing happens, the atomic bomb explosion. Him and his team, the seismologists, they have been studying it. They're telling people in the area in the weeks leading up to May 18th, 0 hour, get out, get out. But yeah, I think it's, from what I see here, it's just being felt like in fissures on the mountains. The geologists know, we see what this is a sign bespeaking of what's to come. Like, this is a portent. This is an ill wind for something very, very bad. They don't even know when it explodes, it's the worst case scenario. Remember, it's that lateral blast creating this Lahar volcanic mudslide. But to your question, no one, from what I see here, people are not even feeling it like at Spirit Lake with Harry Truman, like some small rumblings, whatever. It's not a big deal. The geologists are saying, please stop saying that it's not a big deal. It's little rumblings. This is a trailer for the movie to come, right? Like, all these small rumblings are going to add up into something, pretty bad. And in fact, on March 27th, something bad does happen. Remember, the date is May 18th. March 27th, 1980, the volcano produces its first official eruption in over 100 years. Steam explosions create a 250-foot wide crater. So on March 27th, how much is that before May 18th? 7 weeks? Less than 2 months? The volcano actually erupts for the first time in 100 years, since the 1880s. Steam explosions create a 250-foot wide crater. The next day, 12 more eruptions. March 30th, 3 days later, 93 explosions take place in one day. From what I see here, though, again, I'm not saying anything is a small explosion. What would happen if your head was over this explosion? Do I have to finish that sentence? I mean, this is a big deal. This is like, you think about like Old Faithful, even a geyser blowing. This is enormously larger than that. But these are still like contained within the mountain to the point where the geologists, God bless them, are telling people, listen, you really need to get out. There's great documentary footage of people like shutting down the area, getting people to file out and leave. April 1st, plumes of steam and ash reach 20,000 feet. That's pretty crazy. That's 1/4 of the kind of explosion column already when it blows up. By April 3rd, the crater is now 1,300 feet in diameter. April 8th, a series of explosions last 4 hours, the longest unbroken strain yet. April 22nd, eruptions occur on average from about 1 per hour in March to now in April, 1 per day. April 22nd is the first time in a month, going back to March 16th/24th, that the eruptions have stopped, have ceased, have calmed down a little bit. Now at this point, May 7th through May 17th, by the way, this timeline is courtesy of the University of Washington Library, UW Huskies, UW Library. If anyone wants these links, I can always mail them to you. But these guys, thanks to them for the timeline. May 7th, May 17th, we're getting within, May 17th is the next day. May 18th is 0 day. Small eruptions resume. More than 10,000 earthquakes occur, and the north flank grows outward about 450 feet to form a prominent bulge, growing 6.5 feet per day. I don't know if you want to use a gross example, like a pimple about to pop. That's pretty gross, right? But just think about whatever you think about, like, or like someone having to like drain, like I had a friend who's a veterinarian. She talks about like animals get these cysts and they get bigger and bigger and they have to get drained. So, I mean, yeah, I don't want to be gross or disrespectful because that's like a funny thing, but like this is like a pus, cyst, whatever. It's going to pop any day. It's getting very, very awful at this point. It's getting intolerable, or an ingrown hair. It's like, you need to get rid of this. And there's strong evidence this antechamber getting days before it exploding. Remember, this is May 7th to 17th, 0 day. The explosion is 8:32 Sunday morning, May 18th, 1980. There's strong evidence at this point that molten rock, of course, also known as magma, has risen high into the volcano. That's not good. Now let's talk about the day. Reading directly from this UW timeline, this is the day. And if I repeat some of the facts I said before, good. No, I mean, praise God. Repetition is the mother of learning, of all learning. To hear it multiple times is good. So here's the day. 8:32 a.m., May 18th, 1980, a magnitude 5.1 earthquake occurs. The volcano's northern bulge and summit slide away as a huge landslide. The largest debris avalanche ever recorded commences. It flows north and west down the valley of the North Fork Toutle River. Powerful eruptions blasted literally through the sliding debris and overtook the debris avalanche, accelerating this avalanche to over 300 miles an hour. That is tri-state tornado, F5 tornado speed. Within a few minutes, an eruption of ash and other tephra began to rise, and within 15 minutes had reached a height of more than 15 miles. As I said earlier, 80,000 feet into the atmosphere. The lateral blast devastated an area nearly 600 kilometers squared in 600 square kilometers in size. An inner zone extending 6 miles from the summit, virtually no trees remained of a dense forest. Yeah, you have to look that up. Look at the before and after of the slopes of Mount St. Helens. Beautiful, classic Washington, deep, deep green forest, reduced to, as President Jimmy Carter said, nothingness, a lunar landscape, the moon, just completely barren. Prevailing winds blew millions of tons of ash eastward across the US, causing complete darkness in areas of eastern Washington. That's why I said too, Vivian, if your internet is working and all that, look up like Yakima. Look up like Yakima, the day after. Yep. Lahars are these volcanic mud slurry avalanches. Lahars formed when hot rocks and gas melted the snow and ice in the volcano, flowing down river valleys around the volcano. The lahar destroys bridges, homes, just everything as it flows into the Cowlitz River which in turn then flows into the Columbia. Okay. The eruptive event ends about 9 hours after it began, after a column of ash rises 18 miles in the air and some 1,300 feet of mountain blows off, reducing the height of Mount St. Helens to 8,366 feet. So before the explosion, Mount St. Helens is getting close to 10,000 feet in elevation, 9,670, something like that. After the explosion, it's been reduced by 1,300 feet. Ash coats the Pacific Northwest, drifts as far east as Wyoming. 540 million tons of ash fall out of this release of pressure, which once more is half the bomb level of the Tsar Bomba. It's half a hydrogen bomb of explosive pressure released and 1,600 Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. Small eruptions occurred during the summer and fall of 1980, producing pyroclastic flows and more windblown ash. 2004, 2008, our lifetime, recent. A sudden reawakening of Mount St. Helens in September 2004 was unexpected. And in September of 2004, Mount St. Helens returns to life after 18 years of kind of being dormancy. The slow-moving dome-building eruption extruded a dump truck load of lava into the crater and continued for 3.5 years. It's kind of like lava dumping. And up to 2015, snow and ice accumulate in the horseshoe-shaped crater, forming North America's youngest glacier. So it's just the kind of cycle of nature. It's coming back. It'll probably explode again one day. Most likely not in our lifetime. Think about, the kind of explosion. This is a once in a 1,000 years kind of event. Which I can't say, oh, we're so lucky to witness. I mean, it's my UPS driver. This guy could not be any more based and cool and awesome. I love this guy. He's so cool. He's just everything you want in a UPS driver. What's number one? That he delivers your packages on time. He always does that. But he also is amazing at small talk. And he also played football for the Idaho Vandals like 30 years ago. He's a total legend. You know what he told me one time? He's like, I have a vial of Mount St. Helens ash. And I told him, I don't know if I can handle hearing this because you're already the coolest person I know. And it's going to reach to a level, I won't be able to deal with you being having a celebrity as my UPS delivery guy. But yeah, like people in this area, right? People experience this, but it becomes this kind of amazing once in a lifetime thing. Betsy writes, and Betsy, I'm not even kidding. I'm dead serious. Thank you so much for your comments. People later on, when they watch this, like I said, when this starts getting millions and millions of views online, they're going to know people like Betsy Johnson as integral parts of maple syrup history for her amazing comments. So I really appreciate them. It gives a nice break as I move from that timeline to 30 facts. I want to read Betsy's latest comment. Keep them coming if you'd like. She writes, quote, my great aunt and uncle farmed near Pine City, and their farm looked like there had been a huge snowstorm. I mean, yes, it's ash, it covers things in this kind of white gray film that looks like snowfall, exactly. Lots of people have Christmas ornaments made with ash. They are beautiful globes. Hello, Marie. Lots of people have Christmas ornaments made with the ash. They are beautiful globes. I can imagine, really like shaking the globe and like, it's an amazing part of PNW, Pacific Northwest, in lore and culture. All right, here's 30 facts. Marie, you're coming to the perfect time. We're talking about Mount St. Helens. You can watch the maple syrup stream later on the YouTube channel, as always, for the stuff you missed. But you're coming at a good time. Here's the stuff you missed about the facts, but here's 30 more facts. This is.
I fell asleep in church.
That's a good place to fall asleep. But FYI, people, listen, converts coming into the church become that kind of Catholic who goes and just hangs out in the church and falls asleep. That's good. It's a good sign. I'm thinking about singing more songs too right now, but I don't know. Maybe not yet. But I kind of want to. I know what song I'm going to put on my YouTube channel. I'm going to put a remix, Frank Sinatra, when it starts off with da 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 da, the New York, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to have a guy text a speech like talk about, I'm leaving today. I want to, make a brand new start of it. And then a guy comes in different speech, Moscow. I cannot wait. You're going to love it. I promise you'll love it. Sorry? It could be, yeah. You know what? Why not? I don't have one. It could be it. Guys, here's 30 facts with no interruptions at all from myself. I'll try not to interrupt myself. Here's 30 facts about Mount St. Helens thanks to the USGS, United States Geological Service, 30 facts, commemorating the 30th anniversary of the 1980 eruptions. This article is from 2010. 30 facts. 1. During the past 4,000 years, Mount St. Helens has erupted more frequently than any other volcano in the Cascades. 2. Most of Mount St. Helens is younger than 3,000 years old. That's younger than the pyramids of Egypt. 3. There are different Native American names for Mount St. Helens. Luit Lakala, Lowit Lakala, Lowit Nathalat. Number 4, 3,600 years ago, Native Americans abandoned hunting grounds devastated by enormous eruption 4 times larger than the May 18th, 1981. So that's crazy. 3,600 years ago, 1,600 BC, it wasn't half a hydrogen bomb, it was 2 hydrogen bombs of explosion. So number 5, 1792, Captain George Vancouver named the volcano for Britain's ambassador to Spain, Aline Fitzherbert, also known as Baron St. Helens. Can we talk about how hard Aline Fitzherbert is crushing? She must have been the most elegant, amazing woman. Her name is Aline, Win. Last name Fitzherbert, second Win. She's the Baroness of St. Helens. Win, 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 win. Number 6, 1975. The USGS geologists forecasted Mount St. Helens would erupt again, quote, possibly before the end of the century. Of course, they were right only 5 years later. Number 7, March 20th, 1980, a magnitude 4.2 earthquake signaled the reawakening of the volcano after 123 years. I'm actually going to skip ahead now. That was point number 6. If anyone wants these 30 facts, I will, mail them to you. But a lot of these I'll be saying for the 3rd time now. Number 9. The largest terrestrial landslide in recorded history reduced the summit by 1,300 feet. You've heard that already twice, So I don't want to repeat myself for a 3rd time. So I'll just pick out stuff perhaps that we haven't talked about already. Let me see. Number 15, the May 18th, 1980 eruption was the most economically destructive volcanic event in U.S. history. That's probably could be, referenced or assumed, plucked out by reason. 4 billion board timber, pieces, all of the houses, the bridges, the 200 miles combined of highway and railway are destroyed. That makes sense, but just that's also a fact. Number 17, this kind of seems obvious too. We talked about all the salmon affected. Thousands of birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, millions of hatchery fingerlings perished in eruption. Here's a new one, number 23, October 1980 to 86. Over the course of 17 episodes, lava eruptions began filling the crater, building a lava dome that reached 876 feet above the crater floor. Anyone ever you cut yourself, right? So blood comes out, it stops. What often develops after that? Well, before the scab even. What's that white fluid called? Anyone know? When you're cut, the blood's gone, it gets kind of like white plasma. It's kind of this plasma. If you're wondering, does he know about plasma because he's a medical doctor? Absolutely. For 9 payments of $6 billion, my miracle. I was in medical school, never. I say, so what? For 9 easy payments. Yeah. I was always going to say televangelists, but I meant to say people on QVC, but that's basically the same thing. So I was right. But just how plasma develops in the kind of scab area, or before the affected cut, the wound scabs over, this kind of white fluid, part of the healing process. Okay, this thing exploded mad big, right? But then there's an almost 1,000-foot lava dome because Mount St. Helens is literally hurting. It just got the pus comes out of it, 800,000 feet up in the air. There's a hole there. There's a wound, right? So all the lava, all the stuff is filling back in. I'm sorry for all the graphic kind of veterinarian language, but again, people say I have friends who are whatever, Well, I can talk trash on the Irish. I have friends who are Irish. Well, I can say gross stuff about pus. I have friends who are veterinarians. See anything else here? Number 28, the Global Positioning System, GPS, instrument that detected the settling of Mount St. Helens can detect movement of as little as 1/16 of an inch and use less power than a refrigerator light bulb. I think that's more of an ad for GPS than Mount St. Helens. Why is this on the list? USGS.
Is Mount St. Helens part of the whole Yellowstone?
It's part of the Cascades. So I don't know what, I don't know what.
Whole,
yeah, there is I don't know if Betsy Johnson probably knows about this, but Betsy Johnson and everyone else might know about the super volcano below Yellowstone National Park. Anyone know about this? You guys know what I'm talking about? Well,
hot lava everywhere.
yeah. So apparently, truly may God forbid it. If the Yellowstone super volcano explodes, like all of America would blow up. Like there's also Vivian, you seem to be a person who is amazing at research and like following up. Check out super volcano on YouTube, Yellowstone super volcano. There's something like that would be like, yeah, even more so than this earlier fact from 1600 BC that an eruption then was so many times more powerful. If the Yellowstone super volcano goes bye-bye, everyone goes bye-bye.
But it's like not.
I don't think it's connected to it. No, I don't think so. I'm not a geologist, right? I mean, I'm already a history PhD and a medical doctor. I am not a medical doctor, guys. I'm just joking. I'm telling you, our YouTube channel is going to get very huge. Never, ever take medical advice from me, ever. Obviously, I wear purple sweaters. Never take advice from me on anything, probably. Number 30, Mount St. Helens remains a world-famous natural laboratory for the study of Earth's processes. Wow, USGS, epic F. That's an F-level comment. It remains a world-famous natural lab for the studies of, I don't know, Earth's processes, whatever. It seems like kind of just like, we need to have a 30th fact. Whatever. Let's talk about reactions, Catholic reactions. Well, guys, I'm going to talk about two things not related to Mount St. Helens directly and one directly. The first one is there's a good article that you can check out from the Washington Post called, quote, ready? Pope prays over buried town, July 7th, 1986. Pope prays over buried town, Washington Post, article by Bradley Graham, July 7th, 1986. This is not about Mount St. Helens, and this brings to light, someone else made an earlier point about the Hindenburg. Why can I not find more stuff from the Pope or whoever about the Hindenburg? Well, it's not that large of a world event. We're having 3 classes on 9/11, as I said earlier. There's going to be every possible commentary on that, right? So Mount St. Helens, I did not find that much stuff, even from like the Bishop of Spokane, the Archbishop of Seattle. Not as much as I would like to find. I would love to have, like last class, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Franciscans, the Maximilian Kolbe, they're just like insane amount of there was like 9 Catholic reactions. I wish I had that every class. But why am I going to talk to you about Pope prays over buried town, the Armero disaster in Latin America? Why? Because what Pope John Paul II says here in 1986, interestingly, July 7th, 1986, that's the same year our next disaster takes place, the Challenger disaster on Wednesday, the famous rocket ship, and Chernobyl's coming up pretty soon too, same year. But you can imagine from this first reaction, what the Pope says about this town in Latin America buried by a volcano, destroyed by a volcano, is a similar Catholic reaction to a natural disaster. It's not the same reactions to an atomic bomb, man-made war stuff, right? In a ceremony that lasted only about 10 minutes from helicopter landing to stage microphone back to takeoff, John Paul II did what he considered the most appropriate thing the leader of the world's 385 million Roman Catholics can do in memory of so overwhelming a catastrophe. Quote, he recited a prayer. Yeah, like, I'm sorry if that bothers anyone in terms of like, really, wow, honestly, Catholic reactions to disasters, number one, are always in the form of prayer. Go back to our Black Plague lecture. There's this, I had this 1 = 1. There's a kind of question, is it God's direct providence? Is God just allowing it to happen? Is God stepping back and just, this is our fallen world? Do I have to do penance? Do I have to do reparation? Those questions are always involved. Like, are we being punished? Well, Christ says about the Tower of Siloam, you think you're more just than them? If you don't repent, you too shall perish in your sins. Like, Catholicism is all about repent and believe in the gospel. So yeah, the number one kind of reaction to all disasters and catastrophes, alongside the action. Remember James's letter, faith without works is dead. We're supposed to do the Red Cross stuff, give money and give water and shelter and food, but our prayer is number one. These children of yours, Father of goodness, fell like wheat into the heart of the earth to germinate in the resurrection of the dead, said the Pope, head bowed. By means of the solidarity, the work, and the willpower of the peoples of these lands, may there rise up, as if out of ashes, a new city, where brotherhood will reign, where families will be recovered, the tables laden with bread, and the homes and fields filled with song. This Nevado de Ruiz volcano, which swept away the city of Armero, the article notes, had not stopped rumbling since the last burst of hot ash melted a part of the volcano's ice cap and touched off all the mud avalanches throughout the valley below. That's the Lohar, same thing we see at Mount St. Helens. The Pope flew from here to Lerida, a town of 20 miles southwest and out of the danger zone, where survivors and neighboring townspeople had gathered. It's kind of a refugee camp. There, John Paul explained he had wanted to visit the area since learning of the disaster in order to bless the dead, comfort the living, and to tell those still around to, quote, God will give you understanding and love, open your lives to the prospect of a better future. Talked about that a lot in the tornado lectures. Tornado comes through, blows everything up, but what comes out of the ashes of that city? Sometimes even greater city. Easter Sunday is not possible without Good Friday, right? Dying, you restore our death. Rising, you restore our life. Lord Jesus, come in glory. Often out of great disaster comes even better, something better than before. That's why Augustine said, "Oh, happy fault that merited us such a great Redeemer." Atlanta, burned, Gone with the Wind, Margaret Mitchell. Civil War, burned to the ground. You know what comes out of the ashes of Atlanta? Atlanta used to be Colfax, this kind of country bumpkin town. It becomes Delta Hub, Atlanta Braves, the New York City of the South. So similar message here. All the world cared for us when disaster came, but 8 months later, not so much has happened, said Alberto Jimenez, an Armero primary school teacher, stating a complaint common among survivors who tend to be critical of the government-supervised recovery effort. Quote, I hope what the Pope said will have an echo. So hopefully the Pope can add some spiritual weight. I mean, what the Pope said here in the wake of this Armero disaster could be said, I dare say, anywhere in the world. Let me just get you once more the kind of place where this takes place. So if anyone wants to look this up themselves, it's November 13th, 1985. So the Pope was visiting, like this Alberto Jimenez said, months later, November 13th, 1985. It takes place once more in Nevado de Ruiz stratovolcano in Tolima, Colombia. Colombia, Latin America, more specifically South America, of course. 23,000 deaths. 5,000 non-fatal injuries, 3,300 people missing, $6 billion of property damage. And the great connection to St. Helens is not just the reaction of the Pope and not just our thoroughgoing prayer, may God rest their souls and comfort these sorrowing people. The Lohars, that same thing from the lateral explosion of St. Helens that causes the mud flow volcanoes affects this area. Reaction number 2 comes from a Protestant guy. You might know this dude. Maybe you don't. Think I care if you do? No, I don't, but just FYI. His name is Ken Ham. And Ken Ham is this guy, he's this Protestant guy who does something called Answers in Genesis. He might be a young earth creationist. I'm not sure. I don't want to insult him with that. Or I don't want to ever he doesn't believe in dinosaurs and thinks the world's 6,000 years old. I'm not sure that I don't know enough about him. If you can tell, and may God bless Ken Ham. I'm not a follower of Ken Ham's work. I don't know enough about his work. I think, though, that he's a guy, Answers in Genesis, like looking at Genesis, not in the Catholic way of Genesis is 100% true. However, in the Bible, there are things that are scientifically true and allegorically in poetry. Ken Ham might be one of those people, one of those Protestants who's like, no, Genesis is a scientific manual, right? Okay, as Catholics, we disagree. We 100% agree with our Protestant brothers and sisters that the Bible is the inerrant word of God. It's just that God is a poet, Song of Songs. There can be poetry and allegorical stuff. The idea that the world comes from the Big Bang, which a Catholic priest, by the way, put forward, Georges Lemaitre, this Belgian priest. Catholics say there's nothing jarring. There's nothing that's not compatible with a 13 billion-year-old planet out of the Big Bang, and in fact talks about, and God said, let there be light, right? And Genesis. But some people, Ken Ham may or may not be one of these people, believe, the world is 6,000 years old, Genesis is literal. He looks at Mount St. Helens in the light of Genesis. He says, I was reminded afresh of how small and vulnerable we are as humans, but how awesome must be the power of God who created earth and its mountains. I mean, sign me on to that. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Disasters like this can remind us of God's infinite power and our infinite speckness, of course. You see 1,600 Hiroshima bombs go off at once. Lahar's Betsy Johnson and the farm, her aunt and uncle of the farm looking like a snowstorm, snow globe. You're reminded of the power of God, and that you're not God and you're very small. It was hard to believe, right where I stood, incredibly hot, swirling gases and debris from the explosion had devastated the landscape. I was thinking this way, again, Ken Ham, quote, I was thinking this way because the Bible states in Genesis 7:11, concerning the beginning of the great flood of Noah's day, that, quote, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, end quote. I believe this is a reference to great volcanic activity across the earth, which must have been cataclysmic. In 2 Peter 3:7, the Apostle Peter writes that in the last days, people will deny that there is a worldwide flood, just like those who did not listen to the warning of the impending explosion of Mount St. Helens. We did talk about that. The Vivian, the kind of 100 volcanoes in March, right? Whatever, the kind of warning of this. But how much more alert would we be today to hearing the words of Peter, who says there is judgment to come, an enormous explosion, which will be much bigger than Mount St. Helens. So Ken Ham, this Protestant guy, Answers in Genesis guy, goes to Mount St. Helens. I don't want to call it a pilgrimage, but just a trip, a field trip, But it is this kind of somber place. You should pray for those people's souls, those 57 people who died. And he's reminded of biblical scripture. Beautiful, 57, 5-7. The two most famous of these deaths are Harry Truman, the guy who ran the Spirit Lake Lodge, who refuses to evacuate, and David Johnston, the young geologist, who wires back something like it's the big one or whatever. They might be like, what's the Vancouver? Yeah, Vancouver, like Vancouver, this is it. I think he's wiring to Vancouver, Washington, like commissary, not Vancouver, BC. The kind of back to the geological headquarters. Hey, Vancouver, kind of Houston, whatever. This is it. Okay, John Paul II in Colombia, Ken Ham at Mount St. Helens. How about a Catholic reaction to finish up? Kevin P. Considine. He writes an article March 29th, 2022 in National Catholic Reporter called, quote, the Paschal Mystery of Mount St. Helens, its life, death, and resurrection is a symbol of hope. You know what, Kevin, with all respect, my brother, I just like talking about the Paschal mystery only of Christ. I don't like comparing Mount St. Helens to Calvary, but I just don't like that comparison. However, the article's pretty good in many ways. Like, while I would say, and you can punch me in the face 1,000 times, hey, Kevin, if you ever meet me, you can slap me. But you don't disagree, you can slap me. I don't care. Again, I'm wearing a purple sweater. Go for it. We're all wearing purple's color. Barb, how dare you? Barb, how dare you? Folgers theme song again, anyone? Folgers theme song?
In your cup.
The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. How about, you guys know the Chili's theme song? I want my baby back.
Oh, yeah, no.
I want my baby back. I want my Chili's baby back ribs, barbecue sauce.
About ribs.
Yeah. Anyways, what does this have to do with Kevin Constantine's article about Mount St. Helens? What does that do? Absolutely nothing. So back to the article. Chili's baby back ribs. What do you want to go back to?
Okay.
To Chili's? You want to go to Chili's?
So I think this goes back to I think God has a great sense of humor with Mount St. Helens, with the Big Bang. So the Higgs boson was supposed to tell us which of the sort of theoretical physics models was right. If it had a certain mass, it was string theory. If it had a different mass, it was whatever the other theories are. I'm not a physicist. When they discovered the Higgs boson, the mass was exactly between those two. So it proved nothing, it showed us nothing. And I'm like, yeah, God, you're just telling us and laughing at us and saying you think you know nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So
oh man, when I say I'm not a big fan of Shakespeare, I don't mean that. That's so gross. Like, William Shakespeare is one of the greatest writers of all time. My respect for him is limitless. What I'm saying is I never got into Shakespeare. Like, in my high school, they had this cringe club that was called Bill's Crew. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. Are you coming to Bill's Crew next week? Actually, I gotta go do this thing. I don't know what yet, but I can be there. I had a friend once, we were playing baseball at age 13, And his dad got really mad at him because his dad was one of the assistant coaches. And as an adult, the story that I thought was funny then is even funnier now. We lost the game, and it's this 13-year-old baseball. It's a joke. You might even you can just do a J like Spanish style. It's a yoke. Let's even make fun of the English language. It's 13-year-old baseball. It's not serious, man. Come on. We lost the game. Coach is super angry. How dare you? How dare you? You guys got to, do beep, 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 and everything. And so he's like, and by the way, so all of you guys are going to be ready to go next week, right? And this guy picks up his hand and he's like, coach, I don't think I'm going to be here next week. And his dad's there. He's assistant coach. And the head coach says, why? And he's like, I just think next week I'm not going to be feeling well. He was feeling fine in that moment. It was a 13-year-old talking about, I'm probably partying really hard in Vegas. And his dad, you're going to be feeling well. You're going to be there. You're going to be feeling well. The whole thing was a disaster. It was just a complete disaster. Anyways. Shakespeare, Bill's Crew, F-level naming. William Shakespeare says, there are more things in heaven and earth than your entire philosophy. Right? We know nothing. We're idiots. What's capital idiot number one? Right here. So yeah, Kevin, I don't like that you named it the Paschal Mystery of Mount St. Helens. Come on, bro. But you can slap me if you want. Anyways, Kevin Constantine goes March 29th, 2022, writes this article. I presume he went earlier. And I actually like the thrust of his article talking about seeing in nature this kind of Christological typology. He says here, I don't want to repeat this. He says here, as I approached Johnson Ridge, the world opened up. Dude, done. Save your poetry for your journal or something. I beheld something awesome. No, I'm moving on. No flowery language, please, for me. Just give me the facts. I'm all about the facts. He's still going on. Well, I'll read this. Is Kevin Constantine a good writer? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Quote, this time the world around the volcano had changed. The once desolate landscape now grew verdant, like verde, like Espanol. We need to do a class in Spanglish once. If you want me to, Vivian, at the end, I'll just go straight Spanish. I'll go just like crazy. Do you honestly speak Spanish? How good is your Spanish? Are you for real? You speak legit Spanish? This is amazing because, no, this is great. Okay, Vivian is also, all these people in the class, now that Marie came in, it's 72 people. Everyone that's here, they're all legends in maple syrup history. Betsy Johnson saying, you just became UPS. Remember the guy who's he was super, super cool already because he's a Van football player and then he has Ash. I thought you're already awesome. You come to this class, you do a great job. You also speak fluent Spanish. It's freaking so cool. You do what? I don't look like this. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, see, I don't know. No, I'm not. Through, but you would never guess some way. I don't know. I could see it. No, really. To me, yeah. I am not. No. You speaking Spanish for real, whatever this means, it makes sense. I'm not oh, no way. I don't think so. It's hilarious. There's a guy, we're getting off topic now. I promise we'll get back on. But exactly. There's a guy, his name is Shoma. I don't even know how to spell his name. He spells it with an X. I'm not even joking. But this guy Shoma, he has a YouTube channel dedicated to polyglottism. He speaks multiple languages. And he's like a white guy, a white American guy. And he'll go into Chinatown and speak fluent Chinese. That's hilarious. Because he definitely doesn't look like he speaks fluent Chinese. But in America, exactly, I'm not surprised you speak Spanish. I'm really impressed. And you already were 10 out of 10 cool, or even cooler. But I'm not there's no, how do you speak Spanish? I'm actually surprised more people don't. I really am surprised more people don't. It's I think the Hispanic, ethnic population in America for a long time has overtaken what used to be the largest ethnic group, which was Irish and German people. So it's I don't know why more people don't speak Spanish. And everyone takes Spanish in school. They're forced to, even if they do stupid stuff. I remember when I was in high school, I was just you know what? My name is going to be Armando Benitez. And I would do it in I would go up there and be yo estoy Armando Benitez. I would just try to get the accent more and more intense every single time, but I did nothing besides. So I suck. You're cool. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's get back to the kind of the language of this guy, Kevin Constantine. This time the world around the volcano had changed. The once desolate landscape now grew verdant and teeming with life. Wildflowers in the meadows were plentiful. Tall pines, cedars, and broadleaf trees had returned. They created a canopy for ferns. bushes, berries, and all kind of other plants to grow under their protection. These in turn created a home for more life. Hawks, eagles, and other birds soared above the trees, while small animals and insects scurried about their business below. Come on, man. Can you just get to the freaking facts? That's how you can be woken up. What is the point of all this? Well, Kevin Constantine, I recommend this article. Kevin P. Considine, Constantine or Considine, Paschal Mystery of Mount St. Helens, March 29th, 2022, NCR, National Catholic Report. Read the whole article. He says, like, look, this is a symbol of our faith. In Jesus, God brings resurrected life out of death, destruction, and death. In the resurrection, Jesus' body still has the wounds from his torture and violent death. The wounds are not erased, but as theologian Robert Schreider points out, our Lord's wounds are now healed, and thus he can transmit this healing power to others, Constantine says. He talks about, quote, they are transfigured into a new reality that gives life. Whether in the Gospels or at Lewitt, what is Lewitt? L-O-W-T, the Native American name for Mount St. Helens. Whether in the Gospels or at Lewitt, this kind of transformation is no small thing. Last time I butted in, I'm just going to read this straightforward. I love giving credit to the First Nation people who name things. That's very cool. That's very respectful. Mount St. Helens is a cooler name than Lewitt. I'm sorry. Lewitt, just like Nike, just Lewitt. Yeah, no thank you. Lewitt is not as cool as Mount St. Helens. It sounds like an elegant duchess, you know? But anyways, it's confusing to have both. Like Denali and Mount McKinley.
Both. It's like, what's the big red rock in Australia?
That sounds like an Irish ballad.
Right? And so like, such and such, it's like, okay, Chicago has renamed every street now. There's a regular name and an honorary name.
Wait till I get to Chicago and start naming stuff.
It's like, it's crazy though, because then you're like, your GPS, half the time is using the honorary names. And I'm like, it's confusing. I'm sorry. Pick a name. I don't care which one you pick, but pick a name and stick with it.
Sounds like a breakup song. Pick a name. I don't care what name you pick. Just pick a name.
I think like every culture, then it's gonna name, you know, every item and every street, and it's ludicrous.
Oh, you've been naming every item, and it's ludicrous. That doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Ludicrous is also the name of a rapper.
Right.
Whether in the Gospels or at Lewitt, this kind of transformation is no small thing, especially at a time of ecological crisis driven by reckless human stewardship of the earth. Yes, the rupture of the earth at Lewitt had little to do with human activity. It is not the same as the wounds caused by tar sands extraction, profuse carbon emissions, massive deforestation, microplastic contamination, and consumer behavior that places affordability over sustainability. But it reminds us that the human cooperation with the earth under the guidance of the Spirit does indeed bring new life. Lewitt, its life, death, and resurrection, is a symbol of hope. It reminds us that the earth wants our cooperation. It reminds us that as creatures of the earth who carry God's image, we can participate in and witness to the healing and transfiguration of the earth's wounds from death to life. As finite creatures, we can embrace our limits and seek the hidden way, the little way. Shout out to St. Therese of Lisieux. Seek the hidden way, the little way that can lead to restoration, healing in this world, the way of life. End quote. Thank you, Kevin Constantine. Thank you for finishing our class, The Catholic Reflection. Constantine, he's just making a very like Laudato Si, argument, and that's great or not. I'm not going to tell you what to think about.
Virtue signaling in every sense.
Sure. If you want to say it's virtue signaling in every sentence. That honestly, I don't like to weigh in often. I want to be as neutral as possible. I really do. That is hilariously on point. He's virtue signaling in every word. Like, yeah, maybe.
Like Catholic virtue signaling, you would still say Mount St. Helens.
I'm gonna say Mount St. Helens. I'm gonna say, guess what? My girl just showed up in the club. Mount St. Helens.
I'm sorry. Like the whole rest paragraph, I'm like.
Yeah, I agree with you. What else to talk about? I don't know what.
Margaret Winifred Glenthorpe Hawkins.
Let's go. Margaret Winifred.
Gunthorpe.
She goes. Yeah. She goes by Winnie. Okay, so Margaret, we're gonna end the class giving a huge shout out, an eternal shout out. Again, we're gonna have millions and millions of views in this channel. This channel's gonna be so lit. You guys don't even understand. This channel is gonna. I want to virtue signal text speak. This channel is gonna be so lit. Not LOL, LMAO, FR, low key, sick, SICC, bunnies, crazy. I don't know what. I don't know what else. But when it gets millions and billions of views, we're going to give a shout out at the end to our girl, Mount St. Helens, and our other girl, Margaret Winifred Gunthorpe Hawkins. She went by, she went by Winnie. She went by Winnie. She homesteaded, shot guns, went by Maggie also. She mended fences. She told men what to do all the time, and they just said, yes, ma'am. And is that true?
Yeah.
So anyways, what's the deal with Yakima?
Yakima, and people keep telling me it's super dangerous. Is this true?
I have no idea. I've been to Yakima a couple times. I thought it was nice, but
Did you get shot?
no.
Did you let him get shot?
I heard Yakima. No, Yakima. Yakima was fine. I've driven through Yakima going to the west side. I've gone through Yakima a couple times. It was nice. I mean, it was like there was parts of Yakima that were kind of characterless, meaning like the strip mall, the kind of Main Street, Wendy's, McDonald's.
So they stopped recording.
Oh, God forbid. Well, then that's probably no. That's probably a good place to end our class today, honestly, of like, blessed are the peacemakers, everything going around, whether it's like violence in cities or kind of everything in Israel and Gaza or Ukraine, just, may God grant us all peace. Thank you for being here. On Wednesday, we'll talk about the Challenger disaster. And then after that, why the reaction? Good or bad?
My mom, I remember that she was a kid.
Good, cool.
She watched on TV.
Your mom was born in, I was gonna say your mom was born in 79. That's insane. No way.
No, not
When was your mom born?
6.
Okay, so Challenger was 86. She was early 20s then. Find out when she was born.
Maybe she was moved.
Maybe I was moving that, yeah.
When she was really, got it.
Yes.
She's about 8 or so.
Well, I'm going to give Betsy Johnson the last comment today because Betsy Johnson deserves it. Betsy Johnson deserves good things. And this is what Betsy Johnson wrote.
Betsy Johnson should get for Little Ribbon into this place.
Betsy, Marie says you should come to class. She says you should come to be here in person.
Yes.
You know what, Betsy, what I'm going to say to that? You think I'm going to second that? I'm going to say do whatever you want, Betsy. I'm going to say do what works for you. So Betsy writes, last comment here, quote, my grandmother paid her way through college packing apples in Yakima. The last quote of this class, the incomparable Betsy Johnson, whose every quote makes my mind rack the depths of the human intelligence for levels of genius unseen before, says, quote, my grandmother paid her way through college packing apples in Yakima. That is philosophical food for thought. It's my favorite comment, actually. I'm reviewing an article. Betsy, thank you as always for your comments. I swear to you, I'm so grateful. Like, I'm so grateful for your commentary because it gives a beautiful balance to the class of the in-person this. So I would love to see you in class again, but I prefer you stay online because you do the awesome chat. So it's awesome. Betsy Johnson's comment, my grandmother paid her way through college packing apples in Yakima, is legit. And it's my favorite comment of all time. Carrie Mullis, he's this guy who you have to get his book. It's called Dancing Naked in the Mind Field, MIND, Dancing Naked in the Mind Field. He's a guy who won the Nobel Prize for Men's in PCR. Mullis is like shocking stuff. Most shocking Mullis quote ever. Ready? When I was a little boy, my mom let my brother and I look through the Sears catalog and pick out our own Christmas presents. Shocking stuff. Think about that until next class.